This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, this is Laura. I am so excited to be back with our latest webinar. If you don't know me already, my name is Laura Davis and I am the president and founder of Ignite HR. We are an HR outsourcing company where you can have your very own HR team at a fraction of the cost of a full-time employee. We do everything that a normal HR department would do if you had us in-house. We just do it virtually. Or sometimes we actually go visit our clients. So maybe it's not 100% virtual. But we can help you and your management team with employee relations, performance and discipline, and even help you with those sticky terminations if the time comes. We can also do management and coaching and training, and that's a little bit of what you're going to experience today. And we also hire and help you onboard and then manage employees with instances such as leave of absence or offboarding, and will process your payroll, benefits, and leave administration. There's no need to change payroll systems. Whatever system you're using is perfectly fine. We work with them all. We aren't like one of those companies where you have to switch to a certain system to work with us. And we have an exciting announcement for 2024. We now offer employee benefits. Yes, we can actually be your broker. If you're already happy with your broker, that's no problem. You can stay with them and we are happy to work with them. We have lots of great broker partners. But if you are interested, we do offer medical, dental, vision, disability, and life insurance. We work with all major carriers and we have affordable options for employers with as few as 5 employees. Many companies find that whenever they're just getting started, a lot of brokers just aren't interested in working with them at that small size, but that is something we can and will do. And we can go as many employees as you ever hire. So that will be a great relationship that we can stick with you forever. We actually have plans starting as low as zero cost for you and your employees at the same time. And my employees have actually been on this plan for about a year and a half now. I really wanted to test it out and put it to the test. It does not replace major medical insurance, but it does offer some wonderful benefits, such as free visits to your primary care physician and many free prescriptions. So, if that's something you're interested in and you want to stay with your current broker, it is something we can offer separately. So, any of those things that you might be interested in, holler at me after the webinar and I'll tell you all about it. And without further ado, we'll get started talking about assertiveness. So, what assertiveness is a skill. It's probably the most important, valuable skill and trait a leader can have. It's the ability to speak up and to be heard and to be able to collaborate toward a common goal. That's assertiveness. So, with that in mind, we are going to talk about what is assertiveness, when can we use it, whenever something gets in the way of us using our assertiveness skills, how can we overcome those obstacles, and then some tools for assertiveness that you can leave this webinar today and put to use. So, assertiveness is sort of the middle ground in between passive and aggressive. And yes, we even know some people that might blend passive and aggressive together, but that's a topic for another day. What we're looking to do is to get into the middle in the assertive ground where we can speak our mind. It's a social skill that really relies heavily on effective communication and at the same time respecting the needs of others. We want to be able to clearly and respectfully express what we want, what we need, and our boundaries. And individuals who are really high in assertiveness don't shy away from defending their points of view, their goals, and trying to influence others to see this their side. But at the same time, they are open to both compliments and constructive criticism. So you can see there's a lot that goes in this little blue space in the middle. So let's talk about what it might look like if you're being assertive. Now, I imagine that whenever you saw the advertisement for this webinar, you think about somebody really standing their ground and, punching through the barriers to let people know. But it's more than that. It looks like somebody who is very clear about their own values, goals, and boundaries. If you don't know where you stand on a subject, you haven't completed step one. So that is something that you need to decide internally, and that is done on your own and outside of a conflict or confrontational scenario. And when we do this, if we are being assertive, the way that you will be able to identify that is at the same time that you're expressing your own values or goals, that you're respecting others and you're listening. You're listening very well, because if you are thinking that you're being assertive, but you're not hearing what other people have to say, you have ventured over into aggressive land. And that is absolutely not something that we want to live in. And when we're in a situation where we're working towards a resolution, we want to seek to build rather than to like just win that argument or degrade somebody else or blame someone else. I'm sure all of our mothers taught us that when you tear others down, that doesn't mean that you're building yourself up. Again, you've ventured over into aggressive territory at that time. And when we're being assertive, we want to be open to questions and challenges. That's a big way that we actually express that we are respecting others' values, goals, and boundaries. And we can participate in healthy conflict and debate. I don't know many people that enjoy conflict. I know I don't personally, um, but I do love a good debate. Let's talk about it. Let's tear apart all the different pieces of a problem and try to nail down the solution that really works best and suits everyone the best. Because if I win and you win, then we come out greater in the end. And there's lots of opportunities to be assertive. Everybody knows that whenever you're expressing your ideas, opinions, and beliefs, that's an obvious place where you're being assertive. We see lots of people being assertive on social media, or at least think they're being, when really probably they're being passive aggressive by not dealing directly with the person or situation that they have a problem with. Um, but another opportunity that might not be so obvious is when we're offering solutions. That means that we've identified a problem, we've thought through it, and we've taken the time to think about how a solution could be formulated, and we're able to present that idea. Or maybe even participating in the deliberation process for solutions. Picture yourself in a meeting, all huddled up around a conference table, and we are evaluating solutions. We've brainstormed, we've asked everybody in the room, tell us every possible solution without any boundaries or restrictions. Let's just brainstorm. And we put those all up on the whiteboard. Okay, so now we're in step two. We're deliberating and we're going through those solutions. You're able to say in that meeting, I think this is good because, or I'm concerned about that idea because. We're deliberating and we're just working through it. And that's respectful and healthy. Even asking a question to gain clarity is an opportunity to be assertive. I many, many times have come out of a meeting and someone has come to me and said, Hey, I had a question in that meeting that we were in. What did you think about X, Y, and Z? And the trouble with that, although I'm glad that they asked me the question at some point, but the problem with coming to me after the meeting is that not everyone in the meeting was able to benefit from that question, because from questions rise that really healthy, deep deliberation process that we need to get into. So, in a meeting or in a group of people, asking questions is a means of being assertive. Here's another one: trying your best even when clarity isn't available yet. I think if you asked people on my team, this is probably where they live most of their lives. We are a small, scrappy little company, and sometimes we encounter things that are a first for us, and we don't know where the end goal will be, or what done looks like, or what the finished product will look like. But we take it step by step. And I will say, this is probably one of the traits of my team that I value absolutely the most, is that they don't always have to have complete clarity. They deal with the facts as they know them at that point in time. They rely on their experience of previous situations and apply those things that they've gained. So that's what I mean when I say try your best, even when clarity isn't available yet. That is being assertive. That is asserting yourself into a situation where you can be of benefit to the greater good. Here's another one: challenging the status quo. I think we're seeing this a lot in society right now. The way things have been for many years it's changing. The world is changing around us. And that's probably a good thing. There are a lot of things in our world that are not right. And those that have the ability to get in there and challenge the status quo by offering their ideas, or respecting others, or asking questions to get clarity. Those are the people that are challenging the status quo and are able to make positive change, not just in our workplaces, but in our entire world. And then lastly, the ability to challenge other people's ideas, opinions, beliefs in a constructive, respectful manner. That is probably one of the greatest negotiation tools that you will ever have. And I don't just mean negotiating a price on a new car that you're trying to buy, but let's get into a meeting and talk about, if we have always provided service to our customers or to our patients in a certain way, then let's talk about why we've done that. And if someone has a belief about why they've done it, besides, of course, just the status quo, because that's the way we've always done it, then let's talk about why that is. Why do we believe that it's important for patients to have coffee in the waiting room? Maybe it's more important for them to have a comfortable chair. I don't know. Let's talk about it, but let's challenge those ideas, but let's be sure to do it in a constructive, respectful manner. The benefit of being assertive is really, I think, the greatest way to build a trusting relationship where others feel like they can be transparent and vulnerable with you whenever they're communicating with you. If you're assertive in the way that I am talking about today, where you are grounded in your beliefs, you're open to others' ideas, and you're respectful of their opinion, I think that is the best, most valuable benefit of being assertive, is that building that relationship. And managers a lot of times call me and they aren't sure how to talk to employees about really difficult situations. And that's where presenting yourself as assertive all along the way lays a foundation for you to be able to say things when it's difficult. And I think this is also something that we should leave this webinar and take it back to our employees and teach them as well, because it's not just valuable for us as managers to be assertive, it's also incredibly important for our employees to know how to be assertive as well. Because I don't know about you, I am in my zone every day. I am answering emails, I'm going to client meetings. But yet, back at the office, I have a team of people who are on the front lines talking to employees, talking to managers, talking to business owners, interacting with our vendors, the different payroll systems that we use, places that we buy other services. and they are the ones that are having the real experiences that can make or break my company. And so I need them to speak up and tell me when something is going on or when they have an idea about how to do something better. There is absolutely nothing more integral to the success of my business and my team than my team being able to talk to me and say, hey, Laura, that process that you put in place isn't working. Here's how we can do it better. Or the vendor that we're using is letting us down. We need to find somebody who does more of this thing. And that's really the benefit of the assertiveness to me is that ability to build that relationship, that I can say something when it's difficult and somebody can say something back to me whenever it's difficult. And number three on the list, I believe that we have on this call today quite a few people who are advancing in their career at this very moment. And the greatest way to earn the respect of others is to show that you're engaged and assertive in a situation. And I am going to turn off everyone's cameras if you'll give me just a moment. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you're still seeing my screen here. Sorry about that. This earning the respect of others means that they have seen you. They have seen where your talents lie, and they understand where your thoughts and opinions come from. And this is really important to be promoted within the workplace, is to show up and show out and create win-win situations wherever you possibly can. These are exciting times for you. These are nerve-wracking times as you're trying to be promoted. But at the same time, I'm going to show you really easy ways to integrate assertiveness into your everyday life and how to make it so easy. But I understand at the same time, there are obstacles to being assertive. I mean, in all honesty, and if you know me personally, you may know this about me, I'm not naturally assertive. I am conflict averse. I don't like to cause trouble for others. I just want to operate in the background. So this isn't something that I come by naturally. You know how I learned the things that I am teaching you here today is I studied it. I listen to podcasts, I read books, I read newsletters that come out from gurus who are the experts on assertiveness and being great in the workplace. That's how I do it. It's a skill that I continually hone. But at the same time, always in the back of my mind, of course, I'm afraid of being judged. Nobody likes to be judged, and we know people do it. There's the fear of being wrong. I've been in HR, gosh, I'm going to date myself now, since 1996. And I still don't know everything. I couldn't possibly know everything about HR. And that's where also some of my lack of confidence comes from, because every once in a while, a manager will pick up the phone to call me and I stumble. I it's not something I've ever heard before. We have new cultures that are entering the workplace. We have new generations that are entering the workplace. And these are new even for me to deal with. But I have to overcome those obstacles because I have a job to do. I made a commitment to my clients. And when you came to work for your employer, you made a commitment to them to be the greatest possible version of yourself that you can be. So let's jump into this a little bit and talk about overcoming that fear of being judged. The first thing that I do not want you to do is to dismiss your fear by just saying, don't worry what others think of you. That is an invalid argument. It is human and healthy to be concerned with what others think of you. People that you respect, people that you care about their opinion. Worry about what those people think about you. That's okay. But don't let that worry escalate to the point of being fearful of it. It's okay to have that in the back of your mind. I have mentors and even friends and relatives that I really look up to. And sometimes I even have to ask myself, What would this person do in this situation? And that's a form of me caring what they think about me. But I don't let it rise to the point that it becomes fearful, because that's paralyzing. And if we ever do get in that situation where it's paralyzing, we might have to consider, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the risk to open my mouth and say what I'm thinking? Because if I keep quiet, I don't have to worry about other people thinking I'm stupid. I don't have to worry about people thinking I'm being overly aggressive or that I'm acting in a way that's not authentic to myself. And people can't use my words against me if I don't say anything. So there's some pretty good benefits of keeping quiet too. But I feel like the benefits of speaking up really outweigh those benefits of keeping quiet. You're going to build an open, trusting relationship with the people that you're working with if you speak up. Can you think of anything? I don't even know how much I would charge if I had a magic wand and I could go in and sprinkle over all my client companies and say, everyone here has open and trusting relationships, because people and companies would operate like 10 million% better if that was the relationship we were working in. You will be respected as an impactful contributor. People will know that they can trust you and they can rely on you. Not too long ago, I had an event to go to, and it was really just not my day. I was having a Monday on a Thursday. You know what I mean? I think we've all been there. And I was having to go somewhere and I could have gotten out of it. And someone said to me, "Why don't you just not go?" And I was like, because I do what I say. I always do what I say. And if people know nothing else about me, I want them to know that is true, that I will do what I say. And that is part of being an impactful contributor. And that respect is something that you cannot put a price on, and you will contribute to solving those problems. Whenever you're speaking up and you're talking about the problem at hand, whether that's your own idea or your own belief or a solution that you came up to, you're solving problems for your employer or maybe even your kids or your relatives or your friends whenever you speak up and tell them what you're thinking. The reason that you're in these positions as friend or mentor or manager at your company is because they want you to help solve problems. That's really, at the end of the day, that's your job description. So I hope that those benefits of speaking up will really help you internalize the value that of speaking up and overcome that fear of being judged. But if your fear is actually a fear of being wrong, some different some different solutions that I might offer is to kind of prepare in advance whenever you're thinking about, oh, I'm afraid I'm wrong. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I have a shadow of a doubt that I'm right, um, I probably need to investigate a little bit further. And so, some ways that I can do that is to look at it from a different perspective. So, the first solution that you're going to come up with in pretty much any situation, whether it be at work or at home or wherever, is is the solution that will benefit you the most. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm afraid I'm wrong, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, let's think about it from the other point of view. If you're talking with your coworker, think about what might their motivation be. Um, are they trying to get a report done faster? Are they trying to overcome the objectives or objections of a difficult customer? What is in it for them? And does my solution work for their problem as well? And if it really doesn't, is there some way that I can bring my solution around just a little bit and adjust it so that both parties win? So you might not have been wrong in the first place, but you could have been more right. So you ended up in a better situation. Another way that you can approach that fear of being wrong is that whenever you enter into a discussion, express that you're open to different ideas and beliefs and opinions and solutions, And that way, you don't feel like you're just stomping in and inserting yourself and saying, this is the way it's going to be. No questions asked. If you say, hey, I have an idea, I want to talk through it, what that does is that tells your listener that you are open to talking about how we might be able to solve the problem at hand. The next thing I would suggest is that you consider those positive outcomes that are possible if you speak up. So, this kind of goes back to my last point on the previous slide where I said you're helping to solve problems. Think about the specific outcomes if you speak up in this situation. And are they worth it? That will raise the value of speaking up and help you overcome that fear of being wrong. And if none of that works, realize that we can correct our mistakes. That's where we learn how to make a good apology if we need to. We learn how to say we were wrong, and we learn how to talk about how next time we will do better. I think anytime anyone comes to you as a manager and say, "Uh-oh, I screwed up," doesn't it feel better when they come to you and say, "Uh-oh, I screwed up. I need your help, but here's how I think we can solve this problem." And they give you a solution. So you just went way down here, like, "Uh-oh, there's a problem." But then you came back up and when you heard, "I have a solution." And then you stayed up here whenever you heard them say, "And in the future, I know how I can prevent this from happening." So at the end of the day, so what if you're wrong? If you use these principles that I've taught you here, it's okay to be wrong. And you still allow yourself to engage and be in the moment and be part of the solution without having that fear of being wrong holding you back. And here's probably, I wish I had a moment to glance over at who all is participating in a webinar today, but I believe when I looked at the registration last, it was a lot of women. And they say, actually, I just heard it on the Today Show a couple of days ago, that 78% of women in their career say that at some point they have experienced imposter syndrome. That means you have a lack of confidence in your knowledge, that you don't feel like you belong. So, yes, I put a big red box around one thing, but the other important thing is don't start with the goal to be assertive. If you do that, you're going to come in like a wrecking ball. I'm going to come into this meeting and I am going to assert myself and I'm going to say my opinions and everything. And you might venture over into that aggressive territory. So don't start with that being your goal. Instead, start with the goal of maximum commitment to getting results. So let's look at two different situations. I walk into a meeting, we have a big problem, an important client is mad. Something's gone terribly wrong, and I am going to go in there and solve it. Okay, so I'm not naturally a very assertive person. I'm actually pretty passive. If I do that, then I've got to think, okay, how did Laura tell me to be assertive? Okay, I've got to remember all these instructions. But if I put that aside and instead say, I am going to go in there committed to getting to the solution that will bring this client back to happiness, the focus is off me. The focus is on the problem. And that is where I can be the most productive. So, the reason that this has a big red box around it, if you remember nothing else today, I want you to remember start with a goal of being absolutely committed to getting to solution, maximum commitment to getting results. If you take all that focus and fear and worry that you've had about you and am I going to look stupid or are people going to think that I'm being an aggressor, if you take all that and put that energy towards getting results, I think you're going to feel like a weight being lifted off of your shoulders. So with that, I want to give you some tools to be assertive. But I think if you learn just these three things, you can commit these to memory and remember that not only are these assertiveness tools, these are solution tools. So, yeah, I just told you this whole webinar that I said, come learn about be assertiveness. What I really want you to be is engaged. And that is a lot easier and a lot more rewarding than assertiveness. But at the same time, these are assertiveness tools. So here we go. We're going to talk about insightful questions, I statements, and how to explore other people's concerns. So, first of all, whenever you ask questions, don't go in and disqualify yourself right away. I know you might have that imposter syndrome lurking in the back of your mind somewhere, but don't say, this may be a stupid question, but I wanted to ask, whatever. Don't ask it that way. At that point, there might be some aggressive people in the room with you, and aggressive people smell fear. So that's a way to put off that smelly scent of fear. So let's don't do that. Instead, use open ended questions. Don't try not to use yes or no questions. I mean, sometimes that's the only answer that's appropriate, but think about how you can reframe your questions so that they are open and so that the person who is talking can tell you a story. So, a good way to start an open ended question is, how will this change affect whatever? Let's say I actually had a client just recently. We were talking about implementing a new policy at their company, and this was going to be a big deal to employees to make this change, a really big deal. And we went back and forth, and we crafted what we believed was a beautiful policy. But a really, really smart person in the room said, "Wait a minute, how will this change affect employees who have been with the company for a long time?" And you know what? We might have answered, oh, they'll be fine with it. Look at how it will play out for them. That may have been the answer. But you know what? It wasn't the answer. Her question was so incredibly important that we ixnayed that policy completely and stuck with the existing policy because it would have had a negative impact. Now, what if that person in the room hadn't been assertive enough or engaged enough to ask that question? We could have negatively impacted a large group of extraordinarily important employees. That could have gone really wrong. So I am so thankful for that person asking that question because it changed everything. And you could be that person that changes everything just by asking a simple question. And the question may be everything is fine, or the answer may be everything is fine, but it may not be. And if you don't ask that question, man, we have just lost a lot of value that you could have contributed. Another way to present the same question, but just with different words, is what's called a leading question. Could we discuss how this change may affect existing employees? And if there's aggressive people in the room, yeah, I just answered a yes or asked a yes or no question. But hopefully, you work with a team that is open to discussion and they're also open to respecting other people's concerns. And in that case, that opens up the conversation. And what that does is it just triggers everybody to stop and go, huh, let's think about that. Let's play this out. Let's do a little figuring and see how the change affects others. And what you've done there is you didn't have to go stomping in and say, I think this is a really stupid policy. And if you implement it, people are going to be pissed. You didn't have to do that. That is aggressive. You backed it up and you got into that assertive territory where you contributed and your engagement was utterly invaluable. So I love my insightful questions, and those are even good questions to ask yourself. So the next thing, I statements. I want you to think about the purpose of an I statement. What they do is eliminate blaming. Blaming is, I would say, one characteristic that both passive and aggressive and passive aggressive people have in common is who is to blame for this situation. I'm going to tell you, I've been in business for 8 years. Yeah, we've had clients that were less than happy a couple of times, not many times, but a couple of times. And if I put all my energy on figuring out who was to blame, then I'm taking energy away from solutions. So, what I want to do is live in the assertive, engaged world where I don't care who's to blame. What I want is a solution and a prevention for the future. And also, whenever you use these I statements that I'm going to show you here in just a moment, it reduces defensiveness. I have several clients that I go on site and do training for on a regular basis, and they always suggest topics for me to come up and talk about. And really, really frequently, defensiveness is a problem that they express that they have with their employees. Whenever they go to give feedback, employees become defensive. You know why they do that? It's because they're human beings, and human beings have souls, and they have egos. It's human nature. Whenever someone comes at you and says you're to blame or you didn't do well, those that triggers a defensive response. So in this next slide, stay tuned because I'm going to talk to you about how to deliver that better. It also helps you avoid sounding threatening. Now, I probably didn't even have to include that point because I have a strange feeling that people who are aggressive didn't sign up for this webinar. People who feel like they might lean a little bit more towards the passive side are people that are on this webinar with me today. So, probably not a big deal, but this might be a suggestion that you want to give. Say you have somebody on your team who acts a little bit aggressively. That means an I statement is for them. So let's be sure and take these lessons and put them out to our team. Also, an I statement expresses this is how things look from my side. And that really is what assertiveness is. If you look up the definition in the dictionary, it's being able to stand up for your own beliefs, opinions, and ideas. And so this is how you can go about doing that. I've got a couple of different formulas I've got for us to get together and put some I statements together. So, yes, I will be recording, or I am recording this webinar today, and I will send it out. So, if you want to screenshot this, do that. But this is a great way to put together that opening statement. When you do blank, I feel or think blank because blank. And in the future, I would prefer that blank. So here's an example. Is it just me, or is the number one problem in management world people that can't show up on time to work? I don't know what the deal is, but that seems to be a rampant, out of control disease is lateness. So how you can address that is by, instead of going and saying, you were late again, and I'm sick of it, you're always late. Another way to say that is when you're scheduled to be at work at 8 o'clock, but you don't arrive until 8:15, I feel frustrated because you being late means we are not prepared for our first customers of the day. Period. Stop talking. That does elicit a response. But at the same time, it's not accusatory. You're not blaming them. You're not using those trigger words like you always, but we are addressing the problem head on. Okay, so that's one way to formulate an I statement. And another way is what I'm showing you here. So what you're going to do is you're going to talk about how you feel, what you have that feeling about. Looks like I left a word out on my slide there. What you have that feeling about, why you feel this way, and what you would like to see instead. So this is very similar to the last one, but I'm going to show you how they're different. I feel frustrated when you arrive at work later than 8 o'clock. Because you're late, we're not prepared for our first customers. I would like for you to arrive on time to begin our day on a positive note. That's it. That That doesn't mean that the employee has to go, oh, well, I was late because the train ran over my homework, or, the blah, blah, whatever it was that caused them to be late. You have simply said what I want, why I want it, why it's important, and what I want to see instead. A lot of times, I know whenever I'm coaching managers and they're about to walk into a disciplinary action meeting, they're like, okay, how do I start? That's, I can hear the tension in their voice. And I'm like, okay, let's just write out the first couple of sentences about what you're going to say. And when we use one of these formulas, what that does is that allows them to like kind of get their nerve up. Nobody likes those disciplinary action meetings. I know probably employees think I do because they see me in them pretty commonly, but I don't. Like I said, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't like to cause problems for others, but at the same time, I realize the value of being ready for our first customers of the day, or whatever the reason is that you need people to be there at 8 o'clock. And that value outweighs my nerves. But I have to find a way to efficiently and effectively present that idea to the listener so that they can hear it. And that's what I statements do for you. So I hope that you have learned a ton today. My main points that I want you to remember is assertiveness really means being engaged, committed, and impactful. And it doesn't have to be awkward or scary. I'll send out the presentation here in an hour or so after our meeting, and go back over how to formulate an I statement, how to ask insightful questions. And those will give you a couple of tools so that you can take your focus off of being assertive and put your focus on solutions. And I hope that you do that because assertiveness is valuable at all levels of the organization. You can show this video to your entire team if you want to. It's free, and I hope you do that. You can also call me up, and I would be happy to come present the training to your employees or do a more interactive training one-on-one with your team, however you want. Or I can even do train the trainer, where I can train your managers how to walk into their teams and do these things. With that, I will say thank you so much for joining us today. We have another session coming in February. I will send out an announcement. And if anyone has any suggestions for topics like this that they would like to hear about, drop me an email or give me a call. If you have questions about how to approach a sticky situation in an assertive manner, I can also help you develop that conversation. Thank you all for joining me today. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.